Hello again. I'd like to welcome you to my presentation, or actually workshop, which is dedicated to using educational games in development of educational skills. Due to the fact that we have no access to computers, I printed the material for you. I will be guiding you through my presentation. I will also present some methods that I apply during my classes. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm a social studies PhD. I'm also a vocational teacher in a compound of schools number 6 in Suwałki, but I'm also a consultant in teacher training center in Suwałki. I draw from my experience in working with students who enter the labor market, but also meet counselors and employers, and I cooperate with networks of cooperation as part of meetings with career counselors in many different sectors which are organized in Podlasie. But I also care about contacting employers in Suwałki who are a group of employers in our economic zone. So what kind of games do I use? Well, my time is limited. I focused on the types of classes that can be conducted as part of career training. And today, I'd like to encourage you to take part in 2 activities. But before that, I'd like to briefly guide you through the trends, and I would like to describe the kinds of games that can be used in developing digital skills that may be useful for children and youth who enter the labor market. On the other hand, I'm not presenting anything innovative. I'm no extraordinary digital tools, but I will be using some simple things that you probably know that can be used free of charge if you have access to internet. And I'm also counting on you talking to me and on you becoming active participants during this workshop. So please become engaged. The plan. I will describe what gamification is, and then we'll discuss classification and functions of games in education, and the third part is games in career consultancy and selected tools for working with the youth. Gamification. There are 2 terms that appear in bibliography or in different information in relation to career guidance. So, according to Vincent Okoń, back in the 90s, a didactic game is a method of teaching using a game as a form that facilitates acquiring knowledge and skills, and it's meant to be funny, it's meant to be joyful. So we are using a game as an element of development by playing a game. Recently, a new term emerged as part of the project, and it's called game dactics, and that's a program which is meant to popularize computer games in education, and an attempt to break through the stereotypes. So we want to go beyond competence testing and skill testing. We want to use games in practice. That means we want to use some elements that I will elaborate on later. So, classification. There are many different classifications for educational games, but the most popular ones that can be mentioned are enactment games. For instance, when we play roles. I understand you as career guides use such games in working with your students. For instance, when you enact, you take the role of an employer or a recruiter, and the student plays a game of an interviewee, and that's very difficult. I can see that students have a very big problem to play their role, and if for instance, if I play a role of a strict employer, it's difficult for students to take part in the interview at the beginning of their career path. An even more difficult task is to take part in a phone call and in a phone interview, phone job interview. It's not an easy task. I don't know if you have experience with such tasks. For instance, have you ever tried asking your students to participate in a phone call? And let's say that there's a person in a different room who will conduct an interview over the phone. So there is an introduction. It's not a simple thing to play. Another kind of games are simulation games, and these games may may simulate a contact between an employer and a prospective employee, where students reach their goals. Yet another type of games is, for instance, Rubik's Cube. It's popular among younger students, but there are also other logic games available on the market. Another classification by Kruszewski are biographical games, staging games, also dealing with different situations, or, for instance, problem solving when a student is given a situation to solve. We also use brainstorming as another kind of games. So what are the functions of games? One of the basic functions is exercising. For instance, by playing a game, we work on certain elements which are requested by a teacher or by a counselor. Career guides do not need to be certified guides. These games may be used by teachers, and the objective of the games is to socialize students. For instance, winning is not always the objective. Sometimes learning to lose is a skill to acquire. I selected several games that we use in career guidance. There are 5 basic games which I believe are most fit to be used in working with children. And again, it's my subjective choice. But I chose metaphorical cards, and that's something I would like to use in practice with you. We use story cubes, autobiographical games, emotion games, which are necessary after the pandemic. We see that emotions play an important role. We need to talk about emotions among youth and children. They have a problem to open up in front of their peers or teachers, but also students have difficulties expressing emotions, and they now prefer to order, let's say, pizza over internet without establishing contact by phone with another individual. On the other hand, digital skills are also relevant and important from the perspective of an employer, but from a social perspective, it's important for us to use verbal contact. Simulation games are also something that I will elaborate on later. Some basic cards that we can use, these are called metaphorical cards, and they initiate a discussion and they help integrate a group. So we often use Dixit cards or colors metaphors or habitat cards. These cards can be applied when we want to emphasize our values and to show the students that they have their own values. When students are asked to mention 5 strengths or 5 characteristics, they say they don't have any. And I tell them, yes, you do. And sometimes we know students for several days, months, and when we know them better, we can actually give them a hand and we can encourage them and motivate them to work and to have a decent life, and that's very empowering. The cards also let us express something that we have within us. These may be quotes, these may be some phrases we want to share. So the cards help us give develop design thinking or argumentation, or actually ability to hold a discussion. So that's a definite encouragement to talk. Another solution is story cubes. These cubes are available on the market, and they can be used by using images to stimulate participants to have a dialogue. So by using a discussion among students, we can stimulate creativity of students. We also have different kinds of thematic games which can be used for 1 or 2 hours during career guiding classes. The first one is play out your career, and it's meant to create your professional path and to help students enter the labor market. Another game is CV. I don't know what is your experience of writing CVs with students. I occasionally do it either during career guidance or entrepreneurship classes. Sometimes when my students complete their education, when they graduate school, they contact me. I actually had a case like this yesterday or the day before. Some of my students told me, well, we did it at school, but now they want a serious CV to be written. So when I would practice writing CVs with them half a year ago or a year ago, they didn't take it seriously. Now they do. And I need to mention this, that CV Europe, it is provided as part of Erasmus Plus program, and I really encourage you to practice the skill of going through CV Europass during your educational classes, so that students are able to develop, to write a CV in English or in Polish. And that's a practice which is very satisfactory to students, and then they are able to create an international CV. Another game is a trouble of a hero, of a character. It's a similar game to what was to the awarded game today. So we can also incorporate metaphor cards, and we can investigate the potential of the main protagonist. We try to find motivation, action plans. We can check the development of a given situation and focus on finding the best possible solutions. Yet another is a motion game. There is lots of materials in the form of game boards, but also some of the materials are available on internet. And I would like to mention board games. A motion game, it's the first one. It supports emotional intelligence, and that's a key competence. We try to find creativity in our children. Sometimes they are not aware of their creativity. Yet another game is a game of feelings. It can be used when you're dealing with foreigners. For instance, in my school, there is many Ukrainian students. This game can be used to discuss experience which troubles our students. Yet another game is emotion cards, and we can use that game to establish cooperation, and it's a therapeutic game. It's meant to build relationships, and it reinforces your professional tools. There are also some simulation games. I would like to present 3 games. One is a simulation game called DAX. It can be used by both primary and secondary schools. And the other one is a micro enterprise, and which reinforces mathematical skills. And it's good to use these games if you have a possibility to teach the new subject which will be applicable as of September, which is business and management. That game may be used successfully during those classes. Students can learn how to independently set up the game. They decide which tools and which materials can be used in the area of business and entrepreneurship, and how they can apply these solutions in life. So in the second game, the micro-enterprise, students learn how to set up their business, a real business, and they can be prepared, for instance, to open a school shop. In the school that I used to work in, we had a sandwich, a cookie stand, or lollipops, or coffee and tea, and everybody knew they did not have to bring sandwiches to school, and they would buy things from students, and it was a great opportunity to help the students practice their entrepreneurial skills. And let me just mention, these were the students from a class which specialized in tourism. And such micro-enterprise had to be run in conformity with the principles of running a business. So, school principal was a representative of the state treasury. He decided if taxes need to be paid. Students had to calculate revenues, they had to calculate their costs, they had to deliver fresh products to the customers and check if customers were satisfied, so get the customers' feedback. And the third game, the third tool that I like very much and I use during my classes, I'm not sure if you know business simulations or sectoral business simulations, and depending on the vocation of students that I'm working with, I teach them practical vocational skills. And here we focus on dividing teachers into groups of 3, maximum 4, and we want them to take decisions. So these have to be their own individual decisions. They need to develop, they need to come up with a name, they need to create a mission and vision for the company. They need to decide who will manage marketing and who will be CFO or CEO, and then they start cooperation. Here we focus on group work, because the game requires several participants, and the game Rebas is divided into 12 rounds, which actually correspond to 12 months, and during that time we go through different stages of developing a business. We set up a business, then we go through a procedure of developing products or services we would be selling in a specific profession, for instance, in logistics, in mechanics, or other sectors. There's a lot of materials to be used, and students play out a role of a company manager. And I would like to share a reflection, because I try to observe what kind of qualities the students have. It's quite clear who will be a natural leader, who is great at marketing, and who is able to attract virtual customers. There are people who are born to be financial directors, because the companies start with a virtual 40,000 zlotys, and they need to develop their business. And if there is a possibility, if decisions are made in the right way, then the results can reach millions of zlotys. But if the decisions are wrong, they may go bankrupt. So occasionally it happens that in the last round or in the second last round, they bet everything on one solution. But I'm there to tell them, to advise that try to act out, try to test different solutions so that you know what risks you can take. But still, this is a virtual place. This business is a safe place to learn, and you can go through the game several times so that you know which decisions need to be made in the right time. If you take a wrong decision, you may lose everything. if you take good decisions, this may lead you to a financial gain. And the exercises that I prepared for you today have the formula of a workshop, and I'm counting on you talking to me. I prepared metaphorical cards, which are my own cards, and they are pictures which I downloaded from charge-free internet sites, from instance Pixabay, and they can be used. And you do not need to buy actual cards, the original cards. And I hope we'll be able to discuss that in a moment. And the second exercise I'd like to conduct is a business model canvas. Are you aware of this model? Right, so we will work on it from a point of view of career guidance. So I will move on to the table, and if you want to join me, I will encourage you to pick up a card, and if you are willing to, please share your associations, what comes to your mind when you see the card. It can be just one word, it can be a phrase, it can be a quote, it can be a concept, anything that comes to your mind instantly. So you just look at the picture and then you tell what comes to your mind. So please come up to the table, pick up a card, and I hope we will talk about it. Unfortunately, the speaker doesn't use the microphone, so we cannot interpret.
Wybrali Państwo swoje karty.
So you have your cards, and you can do the same with your students. You just toss the cards and sit with your students and talk to them. So can you share with us why you have chosen the specific card, and what are your associations relating to work and leisure and holiday? So anything that comes to your mind, please share with us. So what is the metaphor that this card brings to you?
Thank you so much. So the participants do not use the microphones. We cannot interpret, we cannot hear before. So you can, yes, so association with holiday strawberries. So yes, it's just a very nice association. See, when you see a strawberry, you smile instantly. Thank you. So it was the right card for you. I'm very pleased because these are the two different poles that you have mentioned. And this way, yes, I didn't think you can interpret this picture that way. Thank you for your interpretation. Anyone of you? Let me show the picture I have selected. Well, my first association is holiday. I'm looking forward to it. So it's an island, a deserted island I would like to find myself in. And the glasses are just our convictions and filters through which we view the world. Here you can have pink glasses, but yes, there are also other cards that are quite dark. So thank you for your association, for your reflection, because we are all looking forward to holiday. I have picked a card which reminds me of a picture of a painting. I'm specialized in art therapy and I'm implementing projects concerning the impact of pictures on your feelings. So this is the way that things combine and permeate. And the colors are beautiful, very warm colors. So I believe it's very positive because anyone can, yes, art therapy is very nice association because to me, just bubble tea, and you can have another associations, yes. So we filter, we look from different perspectives, and a student can look at it quite differently and see something else in this card. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Thank you. I'll speak in English. I don't speak Polish, unfortunately. I chose this card, and I named it I Did It, because I find it at the sunset. Whenever you are struggling, for example, if you're having a business and when you have all the struggles, and then you go to the beach and you say, I did it.
And leg.
Yes.
High leg. Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely. This picture also shows sensitivity, yes? You can see the sea, the waves, and just the flow, but you can have quite an easy approach to your life. Anyone would like to share? So drops. So these colors are just my favorite ones, and it's just joy of life. And I have selected this card because I was down for a while, and now I'm a bit up, and I just loved these cards. So candy, cookies, fruits, even gophers. Anyone else? So I have picked a card presenting water and holiday, and I also see sports activity, courage, independence, and challenge. These are my associations. But you can also say that you have a rough sea or ocean, but to others it will be a nice wave on which you want to ride, for example, or to have courage to enter this rough sea and face the wave. And I have this beautiful picture. I have two associations. So this is a horse, my passion that I have given up recently. And this horse takes quite a different standing because, yeah, I'm such a horse, yeah, I'm just working and working and laboring. And then, well, so although it doesn't work, I just look back and I wonder where to go and what to do to succeed. And I just keep on going. So yes, this is a very nice horse, and this. Thank you for your reflections. I have picked the cards which speaks to my personal life, but professional as well, because you have time, you need some time for reflection, for making summaries, and you can see this space, yeah, and you need to find a space, and you need to take a positive approach and move on, yeah, so the motive of your road or a path, or, so yes, or a peer. So thank you for this reflection.
Colleague from North Macedonia will speak in English, and I would like to share my picture, which reminds me nature, because I'm from Slovakia, and maybe if you had a chance to visit Slovakia, it reminds me of our wonderful nature, and I think and I feel that all from us we need our work-life balance. And I really love nature and hiking in our wonderful country and nature. So,
Thank you very much. Slovakia is near to Poland, but ja pochodzę z Suwalszczyzny, proszę Państwa, czyli Suwałki Landzkie.
I come from the Suwałki region, and for example, this picture resembles Suwałki to me. It's very natural to me because this is where I live, this is where I work. So when I need research, I just, walk for a while, and then I'm in this beautiful nature. So yes, I recommend visiting Slovakia and Suwałki region as well. Let us move on to the second exercise. So you can take the pictures with you, and I hope you will conduct your own workshops and use them, because you can use royalty-free pictures and download them from internet. And then another exercise is business model canvas, which is based on strategic management. This is a very serious model that can be used in any company. And I'm using it in order to identify the resources that my students have at hand. So you can implement business models in everyday life of your students. So I will present to you a business model canvas, and you can work on it. Well, we don't have much room to write on it, but maybe we can discuss it together.
Business model canvas.
Business model canvas can be used as part of free apps at myro.com, and together with your students you can work on this model, in which they use digital skills or the way I have presented it to you. So you have materials in Polish. So the copyright has been acknowledged. So this is the idea that's coming from the US. So it takes 2 minutes to present to you. So it took me 2 minutes to go up here on the elevator in the lift. And I've been thinking, how can I present myself, introduce myself to someone when we are riding on a lift, when we are in a lift. So this business model canvas can be used in a single piece of paper. So what you need to present there, the elements that have been developed by two Swiss men, and it is used in strategic management. So in this method, we are using critical thinking skills and brainstorming. So the elements that are extremely important, we are also looking for creativity in our students. So what can we write in here? So for those of you who do not know the model, so we have key partners. It can be customers we are talking to, or maybe our students, so our clients or our students. So what are the goals of the students or the clients I'm working for? So who do I want to become in the future, and who will be the user of my services? So if a student wants to be a beautician or wants to be a salesperson, who do they sell their services to? So I also teach the subject called marketing technician. So for 2 years, and my student used to tell me, for 2 years you have encouraged us to take up our business. And after a few years of working together, and after being successful in my examination, she is designing the first logo and first visiting card, and I hope that I will be one of her first clients. So it is very important to find your place, to find your niche, and to find clients who will be interested in your services. So you're looking for key partners, you are looking for segments. So who do you address your services to? Who is the target group? So key activities. What are you going to focus on? What are your resources? What are your assets? You have human resources, technological resources. So what opportunities are at hand to your students that they can use in their professional work? So key assets, key resources, the resources that you have and that you can use thanks to working with other people, collaborating with them. When being a businessman, you do not need to be familiar with micro and you need not to be an expert in economy or accounting. You can use the services of other specialists who will support you in your key business. And key values. So what values do you want to observe in your life? What activities you will take? What actions will you take? What services you will provide? And what do you want to contribute? How do you want to contribute to the market? What do you want to stand out with? So when I talk to my students, when they graduate, and I talk to them, I ask them, do you think you are competition to one another? They say no. And it is right, because although they graduated from the same school, from the same class, they will do different things, and they will focus on different areas of services. Maybe some of them will go abroad, some of them will go to another city, or maybe they will not work in their profession. So you need to show them their values, you need to show them their strengths, and what they can contribute. to the labor market. You also need to care for the clients. You need to build customer relationships. So how do you want to start interaction? What channels you will use to reach your customers? We have mentioned social media before. Yes, students have their Instagram accounts or Facebook accounts or are present in other media which are important to them. But how professional are they? How can they be used for business purposes and to attract customers? So you need to think how you can build the relationships with your customers. What distribution channels I can use in my work with future clients, or how I can work with other people without using social media. Or if I'm not present in one medium, am I able to survive or not? Well, this is the question.
Tutaj też jest istotne z punktu widzenia, tu mamy taką...
And one thing that is relevant to finish with, these are expenses and revenues. So we need to know how many expenses we are, what are the fixed costs, what are the variable costs, for instance, what costs are necessary for education or continuous learning. But also we want to know how much we can earn. For instance, when a student takes up certain activity, what funds, what revenues can be generated. And to finish with, I'd like to say that some students have this attitude that it's enough for them to graduate, and then internship follows, and then they have the expectation of taking high-ranking positions in companies. But life verifies that attitudes, and so we need to discuss the possibilities and competencies that are required on the labor market with the students. We need to know what are the needs of employers and what and how to take that into account in students' development. So how to look at the labor market from two perspectives. There's employees and employers' DNA. We need to find what is the contact point. And I'm sure you want to prepare your students best to enter the labor market as a finished individual, as a ready individual, but they also need to know what is their future career path. They will be changing jobs, they will be changing employers, and they need to follow their objectives. They need to set their objectives short term, but also long term. This model can be transformed. It can be used as a strategic management model in business, but students can also work on their competencies, their skills as they are today, and they want to continue updating their progress. We can do another check in few months, or at the end of a school year, or at the end of the school program, and then we can evaluate what has changed, and then we can check what is further, what are further possibilities for a student. Students can also use some EU projects. We are looking forward for Erasmus. I learned yesterday that one of the schools, small schools that I'm working with, will receive co-financing. And imagine a very small school in a very small town will receive 13,000 euro, and they will be able to afford a trip to Spain. So imagine the impression it has on young students for whom it will be the first opportunity to go abroad in their lifetime, and definitely will see huge differences before and after the trip. They will gain motivation to develop, and they I will see what it's like to study or work in another country. And I believe this will be a great motivation. So I encourage you to take advantage of this model. It's available in electronic version. You can also download it and print it. It's available. I think I managed to fit within my time frame. If you have any questions, I'm willing to take your questions now. If not, thank you. Thank you very much.